Welcome to the Court of History. I'm Sean Wilentz with my compadre Sid Blumenthal. Today is Big, Beautiful Bill Day. We're going to talk about that. Sid's just written a piece for The Guardian, and we're going to talk about the Big, Beautiful Bill and its larger implications with, I think, maybe a poetic ending, although not necessarily the poetic ending that you might be expecting. Sid, what do we want? How do we want to start? We should just start by talking about what this bill does to Trump's base. People have talked about it, but I think we should dig in a little bit deeper to say, what is this bill going to cost the people who think that Trump is God? Is he a
Yeah,
wrathful God in the end, or is he just what's going
this
on?
is if he's God, as his base seems to think he is, and divinely protected and shielded, then this is divine retribution on them, because the price of the one big beautiful bill, as it's called, which he forced the Congress to pass, is staggering, and it cuts them. It there's
Well, let's go into detail. We know right away about Medicaid, right? That's the first thing.
well $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, and much of his base is on Medicaid. Um, much of his base are rural whites, and 25 to 40%, at least, depending on where you live, of rural whites are on Medicaid, and they and their families depend upon it for their health insurance. And he is throwing them to the wolves. He's going to throw a minimum of 17 million people off health care coverage. It's going to result in closing rural hospitals. Those are the only hospitals many of those people have. And it's the largest cut in what's called SNAP, which is food assistance for families, children's, and veterans. And that's their food. And he's cutting, this is just slashing that. He says he wants to do this to increase manufacturing, but he will destroy manufacturing. His culture war, and that's what it
Well,
is.
let's back up a sec. How is he going to destroy manufacturing?
This is where I'm getting to. His so-called economic policy against green energy is actually just a crazy culture war. He's also paid for by the oil and gas industry, but it's a kind of culture war where he demonizes green energy, but actually it is the growing manufacturing base of solar and wind for the country. Give you an idea. If you think about wind, don't just think about putting your finger in the air. Think about the turbines that go into those windmills, and they are produced by General Electric. So he's cut those. And he's limiting access to financial aid for college across the board. And meanwhile, the national debt is going to skyrocket as a result of his crazy tax cuts. He's given every kind of possible tax cut he can. And in the end, that may result in raised interest rates, a depressed housing market. And those are the harsh, brutal, undeniable realities of Trumpism.
And where's it all going? And where's it all? Who's going to benefit from all of this?
Well, this is the greatest upward distribution of wealth in American history. And those who have will have more, and those in the middle will have less. The illusion that they're getting some tax cut is untrue, because they would have maintained their tax cut if the Democrats had been in power. But all of this extra money would have been applied to protecting the programs that they now have and their benefits, and extending them into things like childcare and education, right, and so on, which is also being cut.
Right. So this is a giant ripoff of the middle class, actually. I mean, when you put it all together.
Yeah, this is worse than the Gilded Age, which was just pure and simple corruption. Although
Mm.
we have that too
We have
going
plenty
on.
of that too. I was going to say,
Yeah, don't
don't
worry,
leave
we
that
got that
out.
too. Yeah, don't in the next room.
Right.
So in this article, I tell a P.T. Barnum story. Although it's very unfair to P.T. Barnum, who was a
I was
much
going to say the piece. If I was P.T. Barnum's, descendant, I would be saying, Sidney, come on. Um, what happened down on Lower Broadway was nothing compared to what's going on now. But tell us what happened on Lower Broadway.
yeah. Well, first of all, let me say in P.T. Barnum's defense, and if you Google P.T. Barnum and Trump, you'll get millions of hits. People comparing them, but P.T. Barnum actually was a supporter of Lincoln. He was despite the fact that he was, as he put it, a humbug. He wrote a book about exposing humbugs. He was a philanthropist, and he became elected a mayor in Connecticut and was responsible for advancing public education and
Right.
health.
Right.
So
He was a progressive
P.T.
mayor of
Barnum
Bridgeport.
is,
Was he in Bridgeport, as I remember?
yeah, he was a
Right.
mayor of Bridgeport. You can
Right.
find the statue of him in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but he had a
Anyway,
museum, and it was the greatest museum in America. It was on Lower Broadway before the Civil War. The Confederates tried to bomb it during the war, by the way.
didn't Lincoln visit it when he was in town for the Cooper Union address in
Now we're
1860?
now you're talking my language.
Right. Well, didn't he stop by before he went over to Brady's to get his photograph?
No, no, no. You're conflating different events. So the
Oh,
Brady
okay.
photograph is during the Cooper Union speech in February of 1850, 1860. Uh, and then a year later, he appears in New York on his way to Washington, his famous train trip. And P.T. Barnum puts an ad in the paper saying President Lincoln will be at the Barnum Museum. He had not forgotten, but he hadn't asked Lincoln. So he shows up in Lincoln's hotel room. Lincoln comes to his hotel room, and there's P.T. Barnum in the Astor House Hotel and says, "Come on, Mr. President, we're going to the museum." And
We're all
Lincoln
set.
said, "What?
Right.
No, well, I have some other things to do, but Mary and Robert are going to go to they're going to go to the museum." And they did. And Mary Lincoln became a good friend of P.T. Barnum's, by the way, and gave a reception, the
Right.
wedding reception in the White House for Tom Thumb and
For
his
Tom
bride.
Thumb. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In any
See, these
case,
are the days, Sidney, before we had the big, one big beautiful bill. These are the days when you had, real entertainment. But
yeah.
now, of course, the cost is just immense. So
Yeah.
this
So
is a
let's get
beautiful.
to the story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get to the P.T. Barnum story. Then we'll get down to Trump more.
Okay.
So
Finish
P.T.
up.
Barnum's museum had all kinds of exhibits. They had real things that people had never seen before. They had an aquarium. They had live animals. They had freaks like a carnival show, and they had a bearded lady, and yeah, and then they had the Fiji mermaid, which was a big fish and a tail that was constructed and tied onto it, and a bewigged mannequin all put together, and they could see the Fiji mermaid. And then in the middle of the museum, um, what they had was a sign that said "This way to the egress."
Right. Right.
And people who were in the museum thought, "Oh, I want to see the egress."
Right. What could
And they
that
would
be?
follow the sign. They'd wind up back on Broadway and have to pay another quarter to get in.
Right.
That's the essence of Trumpism,
Yeah.
except he's constantly screwing his people.
Right. Right. And
This this way to the egress.
does he take a special delight in that? Do you think?
Trump.
Yeah.
I have a theory about all this. It's not in this piece. My theory is that Trump hates his base
Yeah. Yeah.
because they love him,
Yeah.
and
They'd
um,
have to be fools to do that.
well, they're fools, they're idiots, but and they're, as Trump said, watching January 6th in the Oval Office and watching his mob attack the Capitol. He said they're low class. So Trump wants the acceptance of the elite. He wants social. Um, he wants to be in the club, and but in fact, um, the more he appeals to his base, the less likely he's going to get in the club, and he's not going to get in the club now. So the more they love him, the more socially unacceptable he is for where he wants to be, and he knows it. And that's his to him that's his tragedy. And
Yeah,
so he sort of hates his base
yeah.
for loving him.
Well, let's move though for a sec, because we I don't from the psychology of the One Big Beautiful Bill to the politics of the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah,
As you said, this is something that he basically forced the Congress, but this is really quite extraordinary. I mean, people like Lisa Murkowski, for example, or let alone Josh Hawley, this was a really a shameful what, surrender to Trump by people who had said, "We'll never do this. We'll never do this. We're drawing the line," and then, of course, the line disappears. What was
yeah.
that all?
So Trump comes to lobby the Republicans, um, and he tells them he's not going to cut Medicaid because that would hurt their electoral prospects. Um, and he doesn't understand that his bill cuts Medicaid. And the Republicans are baffled. And he's demanding that they vote for a bill in which he says there are no Medicaid cuts, in which there are Medicaid cuts. So Josh Hawley of Missouri, Republican senator, objects to the Medicaid cuts. And he says it's going to devastate rural hospitals. And it's got to be changed. It's going to be changed. It will be changed. It isn't changed. And he votes for it. Now he's out on the lawn claiming he's going to change it. Good luck. Then, Tom Tillis, Republican of North Carolina, up for reelection in 2026, says the Medicaid cuts are devastating to North Carolinians and in general. And he says, I'm not voting for it. And Trump says, I'm going to primary you. And and Tillis says he's not running again. And so I'm out of here, which may give the seat to the Democrats. We'll see. Then we come to the most complicated Shakespearean case of Lisa Murkowski, who had stood up to Trump as an independent voice, decried his retribution and threats of violence before. And she's the decisive vote now. She votes against it, the bill dies. And they make a deal with her and they give her some crumbs for Alaska, literally crumbs, and some tax credits for about 150 indigenous Alaskan whaling captains, which
Mhm.
is an exception any
I
case.
mean, we are in favor. Let's say make it clear we like Alaskan whaling captains. It's just that this is not a reason
Well,
to ruin American, the American economy and the American, safety net or whatever you want to call it.
yeah, preserving the indigenous culture by hunting whales, I don't know. There's a balance there. I
Yeah.
might be pro Moby Dick. Um,
Are you rooting for the whale now?
I may root for the whale. But
All right, go ahead.
in the meantime, a third of Alaskans who receive health care under Medicaid
Exactly.
are going to lose their
Exactly.
coverage. And so she trades this all away. And then she says, I didn't get what I wanted on the whole, but I had to vote for it. And she concedes that the country as a whole is damaged. And she is damaged. She's damaged herself. Her capitulation damages herself. And as I write, what happens to Lisa Murkowski affirms Trump's idea of human nature, that selfishness wins out over everything else. Selfishness is the governing motive because it is for Trump. And then when he signs the bill, he calls her out and says, You're fantastic. Of course she is, because she's not only voted for the bill, she's also proved through her own example that Trump is right about people, his low version of human beings. turns
Well,
out.
it's about selfishness, but it's also about betrayal. It seems to me, right? I mean, he's making people betray their own voters. He loves this. This is what people do.
He loves to humiliate people because that proves his domination. And that is the dynamic that extends from everything from the one big, beautiful bill to his tariffs to what he's doing to the entire civil society, to law firms, to universities, and especially to immigrants.
Hmm. And
So,
and is he counting on the fact? Is he banking on the fact, to the extent that he's thinking ahead on this at all, that in the end he'll be able to persuade his voters that in fact this is all the Democrats' fault?
well, that would be a pure and sheer triumph of demagogy. That when he's responsible. And what I point out in the bill is that beginning in 2016, dozens and dozens of times, one of the favorite aspects of his rallies, of his shtick at the rallies, is is reciting a poem called "The Snake."
Now we get to the poetics. Yes, go ahead.
The
From the
poetic,
psychology to the politics to the poetics. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. He Mario Cuomo said, "You govern in prose and campaign and poetry, and um, you know Trump 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 deludes in poetry and governs in hypocrisy." So this is a poem about a kindly woman who finds a frozen snake by the side of the road, takes it in, warms it up, nurses it back to health, and the snake bites her and poisons her, and she's going to die. And the last line is, "Oh, shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." And the crowds for Trump shout for him to recite the snake. "The snake, the snake," they shout. And he recites it. And what they don't understand is in the end, he's the snake. And they're the kindly woman.
What do they think? What are they thinking it
He's
means?
telling them, "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took
But
me
I
in."
get it, but why would anybody see it as anything other than what it actually is? I mean, what would they
He
think?
has
Who's the snake? Who do they think this
so
is?
he explains to them that it's really about immigrants and we can't take them in
Right,
because they're going to kill us.
right, right,
And then it's about liberals, so it's about owning the libs.
right.
And it's always about the enemies without, the enemies within. But he's telling them and reciting these words. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." And he's the one who has completely screwed them.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
in the end, um, and he has told them and recited those words, "I was the snake."
Yeah, yeah. Well, the question is whether the demagogy will continue to twist that around, and have them believe that the one beautiful bill was, fending off the snake rather than actually advancing the snake's poison.
Well, what's
One last,
incredible about it, Sean,
yeah,
is that people don't, they seem not to be completely ignorant or impervious to who Trump is as the snake.
yeah,
So the wrong
yeah,
question is, who is Trump betrayed? The right question is, whom hasn't he betrayed?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Everybody,
yeah.
down to
Right.
Roy Cohn, Michael Cohn, Roy Cohn, all of
Roy
them.
Cohn, absolutely, the man who said
All the Cohns, and he
he kisses
betrayed
ice water.
his workers, his contractors, his wives.
Yeah,
He abandoned his children. He stole his doctor's, you know, he
yeah,
sent a thug to steal the records
because
from his
yeah,
doctor. And,
right.
he Trump University stole everything from the
This is
students. Trump
this is the
Foundation,
betrayal. This
everything.
is the
He's a
betrayal
fraud.
piece. This is no, but this is also the betrayal piece, right? I mean, he has
Yeah.
friends who think that they're his friends, and then he screws them over, and has them saying like Roy Cohn that he pisses ice water. I mean, it's just one betrayal after another. He's betrayed his base, and yet he's going to hope to keep the base thinking, unlike Roy Cohn, that he's a great man, that he's a wonderful man.
Yeah.
that he's got.
Well, the more he, um, you know, projects his hatreds on other enemies, the more he thinks he can hold his base while he's
Right.
screwing them and extracting their benefits and money and siphoning it upwards
Hmm.
to, his, his tech bros and his, Mar-a-Lago, members.
Yeah.
Um, and yet he keeps telling them that he's the snake, and they don't understand what they're seeing in front of their faces.
Right. Right. Which gets us back to P.T. Barnum. But let's conclude on take the longer view about this. I was asked by a reporter just yesterday what the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill will mean for Joe Biden's legacy. In other words, is this just undoing everything that Biden tried to do? Will this mean that Biden is knocked out? To which I replied, well, you might think it's undoing Joe Biden's legacy, but it's also undoing Lyndon Johnson's legacy. It's also undoing John F. Kennedy's legacy. It's also undoing Dwight D. Eisenhower's legacy. It's also undoing FDR's legacy. That what's going on here, and the Medicaid is just a sort of symbol of this, is an attempt to undo basically what has been American government for the last 50, 60, almost back to the progressive era, right?
Yeah, well, don't stop there. His attacks in the national park and on
Hmm.
conservation, and on the environment are attacks on the legacy of Theodore Roosevelt. Um,
So, yeah.
his attacks on birthright citizenship are an attack on the legacy of those who were being true to Abraham Lincoln.
And to the
Um,
thousands, million, hundreds of thousands who died in the cause of the Civil War to keep the Union together.
yeah, and his dismantlement of the federal government, which has been built up to meet the needs to create a more perfect union and serve the general welfare, are an attack on the framers of the Constitution.
So
So
these are the stakes.
he's attacking the fundaments, the very foundation of the American Republic, and it's
And
Joe Biden is, merely, the most recent station on this track of destruction.
yeah, yeah, he was the last one to try to stand up for it. The last man before the monarchy that we've come to have.
Dictatorship.
Well,
Yeah.
and the and the one big beautiful bill is kind of what is a culmination of a lot of this stuff. It's an
Well,
attempt to
yeah,
restore
exactly.
it all.
That's the right word. It's a culmination of the entire Republican project since Reagan.
Yeah.
I would not say Nixon at all.
No, no,
Nixon,
no, no, no,
no,
no. Yeah,
Nixon was a government man. Nixon, by the way, created the Environmental Protection
yeah,
Agency.
yeah.
John Ehrlichman, who went to prison for Watergate, was a big environmentalist as it
Hmm.
happened.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and Nixon had um, a general respect for government and policy.
Hmm.
And it was not an accident, if we can speak some positive words about Nixon, that Nixon had Daniel Patrick Moynihan as an advisor trying to
Hmm.
develop policy. Such a thing could never happen today under Trump. And we've gone from the heights to the depths from Moynihan to Stephen Miller.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
in terms of destructive, ignorant nihilism.
Hmm.
Um, so, but
But
this
this
is
is the
this is the
culmination.
result
Yeah,
of this is the culmination of of it is both the culmination and the betrayal of conservatism.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
Both.
As we've been
The
talking
same
about in the
time.
court of history, for a little while now, between the people we've had on, John Dean and Judge Ludwig and others, that's the lesson we've been learning. But the one big beautiful bill underscores that with a kind of, almost in neon lights, makes it clear that this is what's going on. These are the stakes of what's
They've
happening.
now enacted it into law. And it's far beyond a mere tax cut. Reagan attempted some of these things, like environmental cuts and so on, after he got his, you know, um, uh, uh, phony supply side tax cut, which was supposed to raise revenue. And we've known again and again and again that these things do not result in raising revenue, which is the offered rationale and never happens. So, but this is far beyond it. This is this is a wholesale attack on the very idea of American government, and we are seeing it play out everywhere, from the response, what happened in the flooding in Texas and those deaths, and which is the result of a lack of a positive government, to all the other disasters that are happening that are not acts of God, but acts of Republicans.
Yeah. Well, on that note, sorry as it is, those are the stakes, and that's what we have to keep coming back to. The stakes are that immense, that this is an attack on American government, and not just American government as we've known it, but American government as it was designed by the framers of the Constitution in 1787. Well, on that note, we have much more to go ahead to try to get this message out. We'll be doing it right here on the Court of History. See you next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.